What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Tait Talk Sports podcast, back with another NFL edition. I know it's been a minute since I made one of these videos. It's been 2 weeks. The break was happening, and, really no excuse. I should have kept doing them, but took a little bit of a break, but I'm back. What I'm going to talk about today, do a little overview of the week that I did 2 weeks ago, week 10. Go over the Ravens-Broncos COVID treatment controversy that's kind of brewing in the NFL right now. Go over my top 5 NFL teams, and of course, this coming week 13 predictions. So first things first, a little quick week 10 overview. I was 9-5. So long ago, I almost don't even remember what games happened. So I was 9-5. It was an interesting week. Let's move on. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the Broncos and the Ravens COVID treatment controversy. So basically, if you don't know what happened, is the Ravens and Steelers were supposed to play on Thanksgiving Day, more specifically Thanksgiving night. The game was postponed due to COVID scares in both franchises, but mainly the Ravens. Ravens had, I think, over 10 or 15 players test positive and wouldn't have even been able to field a proper team. So they decided to postpone the game. The NFL postponed the game to Sunday. Then later that weekend, the game was moved from Sunday to Tuesday because more positive tests had happened over the weekend. Then earlier in the week, the game was moved from Tuesday to Wednesday to give the Ravens a day to practice, versus what happened with the Broncos, who had a COVID scare that impacted their QB room, causing their QBs to be on high-risk protocol and not being able to play. So they quite literally did not have a quarterback. They had to pull some wide receiver off the practice squad who played QB in college, and hadn't practiced, hadn't done nothing, and they just sent him into a game versus the Saints, which is just, I can totally understand why there would be anger there with the Broncos. The controversy is the Ravens and the Steelers get accommodated to where they have not only an extra day of practice, but the game gets moved 3 times, versus the Broncos, who had a COVID scare and then just got thrown into a game. At the same time, I see the other side of it, where the Ravens-Steelers game had a lot more implications, specifically playoff implications, especially with the Steelers being undefeated, whereas the Broncos, it was versus the Saints, and the Broncos aren't doing much. And, it's definitely controversial because it gave the Saints a much easier win than it would have been with Drew Lock there, I'd imagine. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, what are you going to do? So moving on to my top 5. So my top 5 is a little bit different than the last time we saw it a few weeks ago, but at number 1, I've gone with the Chiefs. I was stubborn before. I had the Steelers number 1 and the Chiefs at 2, but after seeing the Steelers not perform so well against the Ravens, but you can't really hold that against them because that game was moved around so much. But specifically, it's been the Chiefs' performances. I mean, at times they lose hold of the game, but it's when they're not trying. But when they're trying, especially that offense, when that offense is really going, it's almost impossible to stop them. Tyreek Hill had a monster game on Sunday. I just think they're such a good team, especially offensively, but even defensively, they're very good. Versus the Steelers, who can be a bit more inconsistent, and also that gives me a chance to move into number 2, the Steelers, who just lost Bud Dupree, a defensive lineman, a very good defensive lineman, to an ACL tear. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. And it hurts the defensive line, but surprisingly, they lose one of their best pass rushers, and yet they're still one of the best defensive lines in the league. Still got Tait, still got Cameron Hayward, and still got TJ Watt, who's a monster. So it hurts their defense, but I still think it's just as strong. And that offense, I think, is the only question mark. I think sometimes they struggle to move the ball a little bit, struggle to run the ball a little bit, but didn't really get to see a good look versus the Ravens this week. And we'll hopefully see a bit better look on Monday, which is, I believe, when they play. And then number 3, got the Saints in here. Same spot as they were before. I don't think, they lost Drew Brees, been playing with Taysom Hill. It's been fun to watch, but, until Drew Brees comes back, I can't really see myself moving them up. But they've been playing so well, couldn't see myself moving them down. So still here at 3, Michael Thomas is back. That offense is doing well. They're running the ball real good. And that defense is not the greatest, but it definitely is not the worst. It is a very solid defense. And at times it has one of the best pass rush in the league. Next up at number 4, I've got the Packers. I chose the Packers here because, I'm always reluctant to put them in my top 5. Maybe it's because they're in the NFC with the Seahawks. Maybe it's because they beat the Seahawks in the playoffs last year, but I couldn't hold back any longer. Had to put them at 4. They're just such a good team with Rodgers. Not necessarily in the MVP conversation. I guess he is in the conversation for sure. I think the MVP is far and away Mahomes this year, but Aaron Rodgers having an MVP caliber season, and that offense is humming. They've got a run game. They've got more than a pass game. And that defense at times is very weak against the run, but at the same time, they've got good pass rush. If that defense holds up, no one's beating that Packers team. Moving on to number 5, I've got, of course, my Seattle Seahawks. You could put a few teams here, maybe the Bills, maybe a few other teams, but I decided to go with the Seahawks after their performance last week against the Eagles, and then the performances before that when I didn't do a video. Mainly because that Seahawks defense has taken a massive step up. In the first maybe 8 weeks of the NFL, that defense was the worst in the NFL, especially against the pass. Not necessarily a run, but definitely against the pass, they were the worst. Sorry about that. But these next couple weeks, these first past couple weeks have been very good for that defense. They've been playing the run. They've been getting big sack numbers early in the games, which is what they were not doing early in the year. Carlos Dunlap addition has been huge. Had a game-winning tackle against the Cardinals. That defense is starting to click, and it's really working. The offense, however, has taken a bit of a step down. But I think this week with the Eagles showed that they're going to be able to be right where they were early in the year. They were very hurt for these past 4 weeks. Didn't have Chris Carson, didn't have Hyde, didn't have a run game because they were working with 2 backups. But Chris Carson came back, only had 7 carries, and made a huge impact. I think that once they're healthy, once that running back crew is fully healthy, it's going to be tough to stop. And so that's why I got the Seahawks at 5. All right, so now into my Week 13 predictions. First game I have is Saints versus Falcons. This is an interesting matchup. Falcons have been playing, had a surprising win last week against the Raiders, been playing a lot better than they were earlier in the year. But the Saints are also playing very good. I still think Drew Brees is out. I think it'll still be Taysom Hill. But I just think the Falcons don't match up very good against the Saints. The Falcons could be an upset watch the rest of the year because of that win against the Raiders, but I need to see him do it again before I pick him against the Saints. I'm going to take a Saints in this matchup. Next game, I got Browns versus Titans. This is an interesting matchup. 2 very good run teams. Titans definitely have the edge in the pass game and maybe even on the defense, although their defenses are very similar. They've got strong corners, really good D-line, and then so-so linebackers. So this will be a really fun matchup. See who can run the ball and more specifically who can't run the ball. And I think whoever stops the run might win the game, but the Titans have showed that they can pass really well. So in this matchup, I think the Titans have the edge. I'm going to take the Titans. Third game, Lions versus Bears. 2 subpar teams. Bears with a better record than how they play. That offense doesn't really get going, especially with Trubisky back there now with Foles being hurt. I'm not sure how it's going to work out this week, but either way, a weak offense. And that defense of the Bears is very, very good, but they don't have the best numbers because they're on the field all the time. If they were they get the other team off the field quick, but then they get right back on because the offense will give it away or turn over on downs. Just a tough team. And the Lions are similar, except they don't have the best defense in the world. Their defense isn't awful, but it's definitely not very good. Their offense is all right with Stafford, and they've got a good run game, decent receivers. It'll be an interesting matchup. I think the Lions will be able to do more on offense, and for that reason, I'm going to take the Lions. Next game, we've got Bengals versus Dolphins. This would have been a really great matchup to watch if Joe Burrow did not get hurt, obviously tore his ACL, MCL, and had other structural damage in his knee. So won't be playing this year and probably not till late in the season next year, which is a shame to hear because he was really lighting the NFL up. But moving on, going into the game, it is Dolphins versus Bengals. So I think Tua is hopefully should be starting for the Dolphins. And I think that team is much better than maybe their record shows or maybe their reputation is. They don't have the flashiest players, but I think they play really well as a team. That Bengals team is not good. The defense is bad. The offense is bad, especially without Burrow. So in this matchup, I'm taking the Dolphins. Next game, we got Jaguars versus Vikings. Jaguars been really all over the place with Minshew and Luton. They don't really know who's their quarterback because Minshew's hurt. And the Vikings have been very good in these past couple weeks. They've been running the ball very good. Dalvin Cook is on fire. Their defense is playing serviceable. Kirk Cousins is managing the games well. The Jaguars just aren't a great team right now, really just going for a high pick in the draft. In this game, I'm going to take the Vikings. Next game, we got Colts versus Texans. This is a fun divisional matchup. I think the Texans are one of those teams. They don't have a great record, but you definitely got to be ready when you play them because if you're not, Deshaun is gonna hurt you. And that defense That defense struggles, but you can't forget about J.J. Watt. Obviously a big blow this last week with Will Fuller and another corner being suspended for 6 games, which would put him out for the rest of the year because of illegal drug use or performance-enhancing drugs that they claim. They said that they were prescribed them and didn't know they were not allowed in the NFL, which makes sense that has happened in past years. So it's a shame, but is what it is. The Texans definitely have a chance, but the Colts are so good in these past couple of weeks. They got that win against the Packers. Very impressive win. They've got one of the best defenses in the NFL, and Phillip Rivers is playing better and better each week. The Texans are just too weak to stack up against this team, especially the defense with Will Fuller being out. So I'm going to take the Colts. Next matchup, we got Raiders versus Jets. Raiders obviously coming off a surprising loss against the Falcons. They were, as I talked about just last week, they're one of the more underrated teams, if not the most underrated team in the NFL. But they gave up 43 points to the Falcons, and it was just a bizarre game. But as good a pick me up as any to play the Jets. Jets just pitiful, don't seem to win a game. I really don't have to talk about it. I think the Raiders are a great team. Probably just had an off week. They're going to be able to get the win here. I'm taking the Raiders. Next game, we got Giants versus Seahawks. This would be a really fun matchup to watch if Daniel Jones was playing. Unfortunately, he does have a bit of a leg injury. I'm not sure who their backup is, but whoever it is, he's not Daniel Jones. And with Daniel Jones, I definitely would have given him a shot here. But without him, the Seahawks are playing so well. Their defense is playing well. Their offense is playing well, as I talked about earlier. I just think they outmatch him. So in this game, I'm taking the Seahawks. Next game, we got Rams versus Cardinals. This is a fun divisional matchup with playoff implications, probably. Not necessarily getting one out, but the seeding implications. Rams coming off a few interesting weeks, very up and down as seem to have been all year. Cardinals have been up and down in the past few weeks. I think the Rams are just an overall better team, and I think they're going to have it together this week. That defense is so strong. I think they're going to be able to pressure Kyler Murray, and Jalen Ramsey is going to be able to cover Hawkins. So without his number one target, I think Murray struggles a bit, and that defense isn't the greatest. I think it'll be a close game, but I think in the end, it'll go to the Rams. Next game, we've got Patriots versus Chargers. This is a fun little matchup. Cam Newton versus Herbert. Cam Newton not coming off the best week, but their defense and run game did real good, and they got the win. Chargers, very up and down all year, seem to be in close games, but can't pull them out. But I think the Patriots are just not great this year, and I think the Chargers are a lot better than their record shows, and I think they're finally going to pull one out this week. I'm going to go with the Chargers. Next game is Eagles versus Packers. Eagles coming off another very ugly week, specifically Carson Wentz coming off a very ugly week, throwing another pick. That defense was serviceable and definitely played good. They had a lot of sacks and a lot of tackles for loss, played very good behind the line of scrimmage. But I just think the Packers are too good offensively for that Eagles team. That defense is serviceable. You really don't need that good of a defense to stop Wentz right now. Who knows, maybe Jalen Hurts goes out and plays a few more plays than he normally does. But I think the Packers are just so good all around. They outmatch them everywhere. They got the run game, got the pass, got a defense. They're going to win this game. I'm taking the Packers. Next game, we've got Broncos versus Chiefs. This is a Sunday night football game. Broncos looking to get a win to redeem themselves last week after obviously what we talked about before. And the Chiefs coming off another monster week, specifically Tyreek Hill coming off a monster week. But I just think the Chiefs are so good right now. I think this game could end up being closer than people think because the Chiefs might get caught looking ahead, that is. And it could be close, but in the end, Chiefs probably win by 2 scores. So in this game, I'm going to take the Chiefs. Next game is a Monday football game, not Monday night. There was a lot of push ahead this week, I think, because the Steelers and Ravens played on Wednesday. There was no Thursday night football. But there are 2 games on Monday, and the first of those 2 are Washington versus Steelers. I think this is a really good matchup for the Steelers because, Washington is not the greatest team, but they've been playing a lot better in these past weeks. Obviously, just came off beating the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I think they're a lot better team than people give them credit for. Alex Smith has been playing very good. He's got to be the comeback player of the year, no doubt. And that defensive line is one of the best in the NFL. They don't even have Matt Ioannidis, who's their star defensive tackle. They've still got Montez Sweat. They've got Chase Young, other studs. It's just a Ryan Kerrigan. They're just a great defensive line. Linebackers and secondary are great, But I think this is a good test for the Steelers because they're going to go against a very solid team, a team that can get pressure in their face, cause the offense to be, up and down, and that defense still has to play against that Washington team. The Steelers, though, are still very good, still my number 2 team, still a very good defense. I think the offense just came off a weird week where they were waiting to play and just came out rusty. And I think they're going to be good. I think it'll be a good test, might be close, but Steelers pull away in the end. I'm going to take the Steelers. Next game we got is Bills 49ers. This is the Monday Night Football game. I think this is a really fun matchup. I think it'll be a very close game, probably closer than people think. The 49ers have been playing great defensively. The Bills have been playing great defensively and offensively. It'll be interesting to see what that 49ers offense can do, but I do think their defense is going to play well and do enough to stop the Bills here and there and make it close. But in the end, I do think the Bills are better, especially offensively. So in this matchup, I'm going to take the Bills. Now, an unusual game is Tuesday football, and this one is Cowboys versus Ravens. Again, because the Steelers-Ravens game was so late, I think they pushed this one up to Tuesday. It's an interesting matchup. Cowboys, obviously not great, just lost to the Redskins. Just really up and down. They don't really have a great quarterback situation. Dalton is fine, but he's not Dak. And that defense, they have too many good players to be playing as bad as they are. They're paying so many guys so much and they're not producing. It's just a bad situation for the Cowboys. And I think the Ravens, coming off a very ugly week where they didn't have Lamar because of COVID, I think Lamar is going to come back angry. He's going to want to play good. The whole team is going to want to play good. That defense is going to want to play good. Everyone coming back from COVID. They might be a bit rusty, but I think they'll definitely get used to each other and probably pull out a very comfortable win against that Cowboys team. All right, that's it for me, guys. That's my Week 13 predictions. I'll come back next week, see how I did on my predictions, talk about my record, and of course, look ahead to Week 14. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.